And now, back for the first time. Well, back for the first time, that sounds wrong, but welcome for the first time on RGR Football, old friend Seth Keysor. How are you, man?
And I am terrific. Life is good. I'm sitting here like, talking to Ryan. Did they sign Trent Williams? Talking to Ryan. Did they sign Trent Williams? It has been a stressful last couple of days, but it's also been a lot of fun because I've gotten to review awesome offensive lineman film. And as you know, that's one of my very favorite things to do.
It's one of my very favorite things to read of yours. So that works out for all of us, I think. In fact, we're going to take a look at some of it here coming up in a minute. I'll share the screen with the folks and everything, but I know this is your first time on RGR. So the folks, say hi, recognize the face, do the things, but we have a long history. If you don't know Seth already, you probably know Seth probably more than you know me, but if you're watching my channel, it's been a while. We're going to go through and we'll find something that we disagree about. Probably the color of the sky, more likely than football, but it is what it is. Yeah, we're in different
things gray out here today in Minnesota.
Right? See, mine's blue. See, that's perfect. There, we got that out of the way. So we got surprised with the Thuney signing. It happened pretty quickly. Then you did what you do and went and broke down the film. And I have all your clips. I'd like to get your opinion just as an overview, and then we'll take a look at some of what you found.
Sure. So an overview of Thuney, and this is the comparison that I don't make lightly. He is a guard version of Mitch Morse, who is one of my all-time favorite players. And if people, the YouTube crowd might be a little bit different than the crowd that I generally speak to. Let me just tell you, Morse is one of my very favorite players of all time because everything he did was correct. His hands were always perfect. His feet were always perfect. And it's how he was able to play as an undersized center and do things so well. Thuney is exactly like that, except he's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, maybe not quite as athletic. Morse was insanely athletic. But Thuney's there too. He gets out in space extremely well. He is a guy who almost never loses, even when he's in one-on-one pass pro situations against the likes of Aaron Donald. He will occasionally, just like anyone else. It's not like, he's literally perfect. There's no lineman who is. But he almost never loses one-on-one in pass pro. He's exceptional helping. He keeps his head on a swivel. He looks for work. And if you watch him, he's never off bounds. He is never knocked around. He's always, even when he does lose, it's generally a slow death because he's so great at resetting his feet. He has such a great base. He's an excellent offensive lineman in pass protection, and he's a real asset in the run game as well, particularly when asked to pull and move in space, which is what I think the Chiefs really want to get back to, which is when the run game was at its best, and something that Clyde Edwards-Helaire can do very well.
I love that aspect of pulling power and getting down the field a little bit more. Mm-hmm. As you broke everything down, where do you want to start? What clip would you like to look at first?
Oh, there are so many of my favorites that we could look at, but one of my very favorite was actually the second where he goes up against Aaron Donald. I think it would have been the second clip in the article. Yep, where he's up against Aaron Donald, and Donald initially tries essentially a bull rush to get a little movement on him, and does initially get a little bit of movement on Thuney. He's able to burst him back just a little bit, get under the pads a little bit. And in a position to where usually, if you're Aaron Donald, you win that snap,
right?
And so this one was a different one.
Is this the one you're talking about?
Here we go, right here.
Okay,
this should be. Oh, I'm excited. We're fancy.
Yeah,
this is pretty killer stuff. So here you're going to see Donald initially try for essentially a power move and try to get inside Thuney's pads. And you see right here, he looks like he's got him. He's able to lift him up a little bit, and Donald does this so often. He gets inside his pads, and he's just too strong, right? He knocks guys backwards, and Thuney initially is taken a little bit off balance. But when you watch him, he resets both his feet and his arms to spin his arms back inside and reset his balance. See, there's a right arm going, gets back underneath, and then he resets the feet and completely resets. Now, Donald, so what he does there is he's maintaining his balance, right? And that means the bull rush isn't going to work. It's going to take too long. And this is where you see why Donald is such a nightmare to block, by the way. He immediately transitions into a rip, which is incredibly difficult to do, to go from a bull to a rip that quickly, sensing that your initial plan didn't work. And Thuney just as quickly adjusts to the rip, sets his feet to turn sideways and guide him around the pocket. It is an unbelievable rep that is very easy to miss, and it's very demonstrative of what Thuney can do well, which is acclimate on the fly, even to good pass rush moves. And what you saw there with his feet and his hands, again, it doesn't look like anything fancy, but it's just this immediate resetting, and it's constant with him. He's very difficult to beat in hand fighting because he's constantly resetting his hands and resetting his great base, and that's what makes him so hard to beat in pass protection.
Yeah, that's my favorite piece of it too. As he sinks to then make the push outside the pocket and just clear a spot. If Cam had been getting some other pressure, he would have been able to just break straight up there, cut off 60's butt here, and he'd be gone. So I think
absolutely.
Don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's just such a huge win. He made such a good point. I got excited. We're talking over each other again. It's just like the old days.
It is like the old days. Hey, so should we take a look at the other clip you had of Aaron?
Yeah, just right below that in the article, there was another clip that starts off very poorly. And so we can just go through the whole clip here if you want to take a look at it.
Cool.
Where you can see what happens here. Donald is a beast. Like, that is the moral of this story. He quickly gets off the ball, and he's able to utilize just basically a move that you see Chris Jones use all the time. He just a quick stutter step, gets the lineman moving the wrong way, and then shoves him to the side with the left hand. And when you watch this early snap, we've seen Chris Jones do this a million times.
Yep.
This exact move. And it's for guys who are particularly powerful, but also very quick. And when you look here, you'd swear that Cam Newton was going to get sacked.
Exactly.
But you notice, you'd swear, oh man, it's over. But look at Thuney's left foot there. See how good his base is? He's not off bounds. He's already resetting to kick back the other direction, and he manages to push Donald wide here. It's an unbelievable rep that starts off as a loss. He gets the hands back inside, and he pushes him wide. Now, again, if Cam hadn't had a little bit of pressure from the left side there, that would have been time for him to just move a little bit left and just sit and survey. And those are the types of things that I saw even on snaps where I didn't count this as a loss. I counted this as a neutral snap. Because you can't quite count it as a win. Now, if you were in an offensive line room, usually what I'm told is they just do wins and losses. There's no neutral. That's me needing a fence to sit on in a middle ground. This would have counted as a win in an O-line room, even though it started off ugly. And if you can hold your own like this against Aaron Donald, you can play. And the Patriots counted on him to hold his own against Aaron Donald. And low-key, if you look back, the Chiefs playing the Patriots the last few times, Chris Jones, and he did better against Chris Jones than most, actually by a fairly wide margin. And it's in part because he's so hard to beat with these power moves because of how good his feet are. It's a testament to how hard he's worked to have basically perfect feet.
Well, and it brings me back to the point that even after he loses initially, whether it's here against Donald, against Chris Jones, whoever it is, he's still got the footwork to recover. And yes, here he has to go nearly to the ground, but he's accomplished his goal and gotten Aaron Donald, the best pass rusher on the interior in the NFL, out of the way of his quarterback. Right. That's what it comes down to.
Yep. And can you get it done even on bad snaps? And if your bad snaps aren't even that bad, that's what you need from your offensive lineman, consistent protection. And again, Donald is just a completely different. Chris Jones is one of the very best pass rushers in the league, and Aaron Donald is just on a completely different level from him. It's like comparing Mahomes tapes to anyone else, only probably even more so, because I think current iteration of Rodgers is closer to Mahomes than anyone else is to Donald.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And so we also, I don't know what other clips you grabbed, whether you grabbed all of them or not. All of them. Goodness gracious. So he had another clip against Donald where we kind of look at him handling a looping pass rusher. I don't know if you'd want to call this necessarily a stunt per se, but it looks like they were trying to execute one. But he starts off here without a guy necessarily on top of him because of the way Donald rushes going inside towards the center. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, it's really easy to engage just Donald, obviously helping with the double team. But you see he keeps a hand available, keeps his eyes up. And when you've got another looping rusher there, eyes up, pushes him right around the pocket. Now that should look familiar to Chiefs fans, except it ended very differently way too often for the Chiefs interior in 2020 and 2019, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
They have not handled delayed blitzes or any form of stunts, twists, gamesmanship up front. They have not handled those loops well. And this is something that Thuney consistently did very well. And one of the reasons why I highlighted this particular play is because when you're thinking about, because it's a little more delayed, it's not as fast as some that you might see, or many that you might see. But because of the monster that he's trying to block, it would be really easy to excuse Thuney getting distracted, saying, hey, we've got this guy, we're going to hold him. But he still keeps his head up, still keeps aware of what's going on around him. And that's consistent in his film. And it's important to keep in mind, people who are watching this who maybe aren't familiar with what I do. These clips aren't meant to say, well, this proves definitively this is who this player is. These clips, when I write, are meant to provide demonstrations of what I see when I'm charting every snap. Because any offensive lineman, I could show you a highlight reel of 10 Cam Irving plays at tackle that make him look like an all-pro. What matters is, and that's not a shot at Cam Irving, who I love and I think is an all-time celebrator, but he wasn't particularly great at tackle is the point. I could show you 10 Christian Ponder throws that were like, wow, this guy's elite. What's important is what people do on a snap-by-snap basis. And the stuff we're seeing here was demonstrated by Thuney on a snap-by-snap basis. And that's why it's so important.
Yeah, I agree with you. And folks, you've heard me say it about athleticism. It's not that you do it all the time. It's what you are capable of. And these are the highlights of what he's capable of. I think it stands out. Now, I know you picked a couple of other things. Let's hit what you think is the next most important to his game, because this shows, again, the recovery in line, but he's got a couple other tricks up his sleeve.
He's got lots of tricks up his sleeve. If we want to talk about him as a run blocker, we certainly can.
Please.
Because there's a lot to be said about him. One of the first run block snaps that I looked at was just a very basic pull. And he's very comfortable moving laterally in either direction along the line and trying to get around to find someone to block. Now, in this particular play, 47 does a pretty nice job getting off at the snap and getting upfield. Now, one thing that it makes his job a little tougher in the long run because it gives Thuney an angle. But if you watch Thuney, and this is where what I think is special about him, he recognizes what's happening very quickly and where he needs to adjust, how he needs to lay a block. He sees the angles very, very well in the run game. So here when he pulls, he sees that 47's got a little farther upfield. So we're not trying to down block him. We're not even trying necessarily to seal him off completely towards the sideline. Instead, I'm going to throw my shoulder into him and knock him further back, take advantage of the direction he's already going. And smart offensive linemen, when they're run blocking, do that. They utilize the momentum of big, strong, fast guys, especially a guy like one here who is twice the athlete Thuney is. To understand exactly how to move and get a hat on him is much harder than people think. And with him, it is snap after snap after snap of him hitting his spot. The very next play that I highlighted was against the Dolphins, where it was a similar thing. He was just asked to pull, and this time though, the Dolphins edge got an unbelievable jump on the ball, and like to the point of, and it was from an all 22 angle where they basically. He was probably 3 yards in the backfield by the time the play started, and he still got there. Ooh, see, this is a good one too, man. I think
I missed one clip for you. Sorry.
You missed one clip. There's another one. If you check out the article, it's on the Chief of the North newsletter, where you'll see the pass rusher basically gets about 4 yards into the backfield and is able to blow up the play. And Thuney alters his entire trajectory to head farther into the backfield to knock the guy aside and allow for a gain. It's just not easy what he does, but he makes it look easy. He's also really comfortable executing combo blocks, which I think was the next clip that you were going to show.
It was.
Where simple combo block is, for those who don't know, I'm assuming most people who watch your show know things. And for what it's worth, terminology varies. But, a combo block, you basically start off center guard. They start off with a double team, and the plan is for Thuney here to climb to the second level and block, whether it's a secondary player or a linebacker there at the second level. Thuney is very adept at that. He's got enough strength to help generate movement, but he's got also enough athleticism to get to the next level. And just as important, he's consistently able to get locked on to someone at that second level. It's hard to block linebackers or secondary players in space because they're so athletic and you have some momentum. And so to really get a hat on him and drive forward, that's a big win for that offense, the particular possession, just because you've got the movement, you've given an easy hole for him to run through, and then you can get to the second level and drive forward. This also, just on a side note, was a really nice block by 47 with the Patriots too.
It helps to have a fullback. I'm just saying.
Yeah, sometimes you need a fullback. I knew I had to give a shout out to that, which, speaking of fullbacks, my condolences.
Thank you.
Great career for Anthony Sherman. He's a Chief that we're all going to remember for a very long time.
I think so.
So, I mean, that's the thing with Thuney. When he's asked to block as an individual blocker, do things a little more power-oriented, he's very capable of sealing guys off, holding up his spot. It's not necessarily his game. He is not a Quentin Nelson that you're looking to run a guy over, but he's very, very good at sealing off defenders, keeping them from moving off their spot, and walling them off from wherever the running lane is. So he can really execute whatever you're looking for, whether it's a gap-based or whether it's zone-based, whatever you're trying to do, he can do it. But he is especially adept pulling and moving in space. And he's good enough, more than good enough, at everything else that he's very, very scheme diverse. There's really nothing he's bad at. To avoid the appearance of complete homerism, I would say, much like Morse, if there was one, criticism to pick at, is that he can be overpowered if he doesn't get his footwork right. The problem for opponents is that he almost never gets his footwork wrong. And so, I mean, he is not quite what you would build in a lab to be a perfect guard, but he's close, and he's an exceptional player. And when I talk to guys that cover the Patriots, I mean, they called him, several different guys use this exact phrase, one of the best offensive linemen of the entire Bill Belichick era.
Wow. That's saying something.
It is. They have some great linemen there.
It's a significant thing. And I appreciate you walking us through what you found, folks. If you want to find more of the detail in what Seth graded, how he broke it down, go read his words on the Chief of the North newsletter. Is there a specific URL for that? I'll put it in the show notes.
You can look for it. I think if I'm gonna remember off the top of my head as I sit here installed, trying to remember what my website is called. It's MN as in Minnesota Chiefsfan.substack.com. And I'll tell people, any friend of Ryan's is a friend of mine. So anyone who's subscribed to RGR Football, let me know, show me, whether it's DM on Twitter at RealMN Chiefs-Fan. If you're a subscriber to RGR Football, shoot me, I don't know. Let me know that you are, and I'll believe you. And I'll send you a link for half off or something. You can subscribe for $6 a year. It's like the cost of not even a good McDonald's, meal. But you got to subscribe to RGR Football. And if you're not, I don't know what you're doing with your life, to be perfectly honest.
You found us randomly, but if you're one of my subscribers, you should be one of his, folks. Make sure you go check that out. I will stick it in the show notes. It'll be a clickable thing for you. Seth, thanks for all the time. It's great to see you on here.
Hey, man, it's good to see you too.
Folks, enjoy your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. We'll check you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.